evening, viewers. We have Professor Vaidya today as our special guest. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you.
Yeah. And friends, it's going to be a very interesting session because Professor Vaidya has just brought out his new book called Social Capital, and it's now available on Amazon. So perhaps, Professor, we can just show them the cover of the book. Yes, caste as social capital.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me, friends, give you a small brief about who everybody knows Professor Vaidya, but just a little small introduction. Now, Professor Vaidya is a retired professor of finance who used to teach at the Indian Institute of Management in Bangalore. He's a graduate of the Loyola College, Madras, and with a master's degree from the Indian Statistical Institute, Calcutta. He obtained his doctorate from the Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta, where he also taught for 4 years. Professor Vaidya is a two-time Fulbright scholar and also a fellow of the ICSSR. He has visited faculty at various universities in the US and UK. In the past, he has been selected by Business Today as one of the 10 best professors at all IIMs. He has had the rare privilege of being in the various committees of regulators like SEBI, RBI, IRDA, and PFRDA. He is a consultant to many organizations and is on the board of many corporate firms. Many consider, so when we move to the book, it will be about caste and what Professor Vaidya had in mind when he wrote this book. So could you give us a brief about this book, Professor Vaidya?
Thank you, Meenadi. Thanks a lot for that kind introduction. It is always a pleasure to talk with the Candid Meena channel because the audience is highly erudite and knowledgeable, and they,
Thank you.
sometimes give good amount of good positive comments and other thing also. And very important. Uh, Now, a brief idea. First, a few things I would like to mention about. One is this caste is not a Indian word. It's derived from the Portuguese word casta. And earlier we used to have varna actually, all four categories. And this Portuguese who went into the South American countries and other thing, they created the word costa for categorization. We used to have by and large what is called jati later, and we will see that it always used to be lateral and not hierarchical as it is made out now. This is very important to note. And fundamentally, Indian civilization is the only one which never had slavery as an aspect of its existence. Islamic civilization had slavery. Actually, India was ruled by slave dynasty for a short period of time, if you remember correctly.
Yes.
And US was built on slavery. Everybody knows about it. And all other European countries had their own aspects of slavery. But uh, Hindu civilization never had slavery as a aspect of its existence. This is something very, very important to note. The second is they say that 2000 years of oppression, depression, and all the thing. If it were so, there should have been large amount of caste wars in India. I checked this with even Marxist professors. There were no caste wars at all in India. Unlike Europe, where every 30 years there used to be one war between different tribes and between different groups. In India, there was no caste wars actually. Kurmis did not fight Kyoris, who did not fight Yadavs, like that you can say. It's a very surprising thing because India has that been a peculiar country where people were oppressed for such a long period without any uprising or without any wars and other thing. It's something very, very interesting. The third thing I want to stress is Sardar Vallabh Patel joined something like 560 samastans or kingdoms into making that time India. Actually, almost all of them were merged, except that Hyderabad had some minor, opposition and other thing. He tackled it by sending our police and other thing. Anyhow, this 560, if you analyze, all of them were SC, ST or OBC kingdoms. It's a very, very interesting thing. And my American colleague always say India is a very peculiar country where the erstwhile rulers are having reservation today. There is no. It's the only country where See, all the rulers were OBC, substantial number. Some of them were SC, STs also. So these are some of the things which we should keep in the back of the mind.
Professor, as per our scriptures, they talk about four varnas: Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya,
Now,
and
I will come
Shudra.
to that.
Ah,
I
okay.
will come to that actually.
Ah,
The categorization earlier, was first time the hierarchy was created by Britishers in 1881 census. Prior to that, I have done a lot of research in that. There is no hierarchy at all. There were caste. On that, there is no doubt about it. There were also four varnas, but there was not a hierarchy. The only thing everybody quotes is that Purusha Sukta, where it is told that Brahmins came from face and Kshatriyas from the chest and Vaishyas from the belly and then Shudras from the feet. And this is told as a hierarchy. People do not even understand. Feet is enormously worshipped in India. The feet of the god is actually, if you go to any Vaishnava temple, he will keep your crown on your head. That's the
yes,
feet of the Lord.
yes.
So feet is not something
Even
to
I
be.
think in Lord Rama, they put
Yeah,
his
yeah. So
his
feet is not something which is to be looked down upon or anything. Anyhow, other than this single Purusha Sukta Sostra, there is no other existing literature on hierarchy of caste till 1881. I have checked this. If somebody can provide me some original on the hierarchy, I'll be happy. Anyhow, the 1881, the Britishers created this hierarchy, ABCD. That is, the Brahmins are the first and the second is Kshatriyas, like that. They give in their explanation in 1891 that they wanted to have a mirror image of what was happening in Britain in terms of senior civil servants, officers, clerks, and peons. These were the four categories. So we thought they say that the same mirror image we should create in India. That's all.
Mm,
In the 1881 census, and interestingly, um, 1921 castes were only enumerated. They were very unhappy. Quite a large number of castes were. And in those days, it was what you may loosely call segregation, not aggregation, but a division. Everybody was, for instance, there was nothing called Jats. There are 410 subcaste of Jats. Not many of you may even know about it.
mm, mm.
But nowadays, everybody is calling Jat. And because of political, we will come to that a bit later. In those days, it was a sub caste was mentioned. So the Britishers were not happy about it. So what they told in 1991 census is 1881 is over. So 1891, sorry, census, they told the enumerator, you decide the caste and fill up the form. This is something which has never happened in the world history, where the enumerators decide. So if you are having a tough or if you are, then they will say you are a Brahmin. They will
Brahmin.
categorize. If you are slightly, very well built, they will say you are Kshatriya. If you are sitting on a pillow or something and doing business, you are a. So they decided. Enumerators decided. So this is something which is obnoxious, and this continued till 1931. We have the last caste census in 1931. 1941 there was no census because of Second World War, and 1951 Nehru removed that caste column, telling we are becoming a casteless society, so we should not have caste in the. So we should be very clear that the last number of caste in each category is known in 1931. That's all, and
So
that
what
was used
Maya, yeah,
in
what
1981.
Maya is saying is that so even under Mughal rule, there was no caste, only Jati or Varna. So British came and played their divide and rule game.
Yeah, yeah. British only created this hierarchy. Caste was always there, but hierarchy was created by
Ah, ah,
British. That is the thing. And till then, it was more lateral, as it is
So
called by the
before,
Pangar
see,
Gupta,
so could you tell us,
Lumini
you
Sush.
when you say caste was always there, so tell us why was caste there?
Caste was very, we will come to that. It's an
Ah,
extraordinarily useful
okay. Mm.
buffer system. That's why
Yeah,
the caste was always there.
yeah.
Anyhow, so the last census was 1931. This
Mm,
we should remember. And that was used by Mandal Commission in 1981
mm,
in order to decide about reservation.
yeah.
What a foolish type of thing. 1931 data was extrapolated, and if 1931 there were, let's say, 15% were Yadavs, the same thing was taken in 1981. So much changes have taken place. Anyhow, so after 1931, we don't have caste data. Exactly. Whatever is being talked about in the TV studios and other thing, I call it as POTA data, POTA, pulled out of thin air. So, in one discussion, one friend was telling, in this constituency, so many Yadavs. I told, how do you know? He told, no, sir, the anchor was Yadav, so I thought better to go along with that. And so we don't have proper caste census after 1931 is something fundamentally we should keep in the back of the mind. Now, in 2011, our friend Chidambaram was the Home Minister. That time it was felt we can have also a caste additional census, so not part of the regular census, additional information on this socio-economic condition and caste thing. It was collected, and huge number of problems arose in the 2011 additional census. The 330 million households were contacted. 4.6 million entries were made on caste, which means 72 household per one caste, and such a type of a issue. And finally, it was decided at least 65 to 70,000 are not easily in the classification. So they decided and they gave it to what is this known as Niti Ayog in order to clean up the data. Niti Ayog purchased two huge Godrej Almiras and put all of the tapes inside that and locked it. And the key, I think they might have thrown somewhere. God knows. This is in 2016. Now 2023, nothing has happened because they know that it's a very messy thing and it's not a.
Better to
So
forget about it.
yeah. So now people who are clamoring caste census, they don't understand what they are asking for. You see, in TV studio, you talk about Tevar, Yadav, and other things. But when you go to the ground level and ask people, they don't identify in this aggregate type of a caste. They go into sub level, and then they say that we belong to this particular group and other. And anyhow, one attempt was made by Karnataka in 2017, and the current chief minister was in charge. And that is another. Karnataka has always done a very exhaustive census on this. They did exhaustive enumeration, and that is also two huge Godrej Almiras were purchased by Vedant Sauda.
Why
And
why
side
this
and
liking for Godrej Almara?
they are very steel and very strong and everything. That's all. Anything else also you can buy and kept inside. That has not been released actually. The
Okay.
reason is very simple. Everybody in Karnataka thinks that Linkayats are the largest number, followed by Okaligas. Linkayats are something like 17%, it is always told, and Okaligas are some 13%, and that's how the political discussion take place. But
Yeah.
this 2017, the leaked data suggest Linkayats and Okaligas are not such a large number. Linkayats are hardly 11 to 12%, Okaligas are less than 10%. Muslims and SCs, they constitute 40% of the Karnataka population. Let me again repeat it. Muslims and SC, they constitute 40%. And then so many other type of smaller, what one can call non OBC caste, they all constitute another 5%. That's a, and nobody wants to talk about this so that census have been kept inside. Actually, now people can ask the current chief minister to release it. I don't think anybody is going to take interest in.
Since
Uh,
since he's also opening all the doors that Vastu has
yeah.
said no.
See, each caste, we have to remember one important thing people forget is
mm,
It is a sampradaya.
mm,
They have their own birth rituals,
mm,
namakarnam, mundakam,
mm,
and when to initiate the education of the child,
mm,
and all these things. For instance, in Kerala, normally during Vijayadashmi time, Vidyarambham is done. They
mm.
put, they ask the child to write it in the with the with the rice on the plate, and then so different areas, different type of some sampradaya are followed. Similarly for betrothal, similarly for marriage, not all marriages of all caste are identical. Each caste is, see, the Nair marriage is something which is totally different. It gets over in an hour and a half or two maximum.
5 minutes. In 5 minutes.
5 minutes, that's all. And whereas other type of people think it can
Goes
be
for
3 days,
days.
2 days, another thing. And
So
different
here,
stages of life.
Professor, one
Uh,
question from Maya. Why we as a civilized society continue to be under foreign rule and allowed ourselves to be disempowered by caste hierarchy, which is today looming up not just in India, but in USA too as equality labs?
Yeah, yeah. See that because this is 100 years of history, and they have imbibed it actually, and particularly the Dravidian movement was very strongly caste oriented, encouraged by the British. You see, in the north they used in India the Hindu Muslim thing. In the south they used the caste thing. Very simple in order to. So that was the major, and they also understood. We will just see that caste can be a very good engine for economic growth. That is the theme of our book also.
Ah,
So each caste has got their own, dress habits, their own food habits, their own, it's a sampradaya. It's a method of conducting their own affairs and other things. Anyhow, we don't have much data on, as I told you, but we have economic census done by NSSO, National Statistical Service Office nowadays, and they have exhaustively covered all the enterprises in India.
mm,
Enterprises mean the street corner, fruit seller to Ambani's huge company.
mm,
All of them are included.
mm,
Own account mean you have no labor employed. Otherwise, you hire people. That's called establishment. Anyway, we will not go into all the technical detail. In 1998, 30 million enterprises were covered. Out of that, 45% was SC, ST, and OBCs owned, owned by them, SC, ST, and OBC. In 2005, 42 million was covered, 51% was owned by SC, ST, and OBC. In 2013, 58 million was covered, and again, roughly 60% was SC, ST, and OBC. Today, the survey has not yet been released. Roughly, approximately, you will have something like 65 million enterprises in the country. I am talking about all over India, and something like 67% will be owned by SC, ST, and OBC. What I
mm,
want to stress is
mm,
the ownership of enterprises in the country is predominantly OBC and SC, ST.
mm.
This is very important, and
So
that
what is the reason?
implies that
What is the reason for that?
Vaishyaization of India is taking place. Everybody wants to become a Vaishya in India today. There is no other, all type of people are wanting to get into business, commerce, and work on it. So this is what is the most, it's not just the Bania who used to be in the business. And Harish Damodaran, the grandson of EMS Nambudribad, EMS Nambudribad, many of you would have heard about it.
Mm,
He is the founder of the Indian Marxist movement. His grandson has written a very nice book on new capitalist class. Traditionally, people went into business from trade, like cotton trade, jute trade, and
mm,
your bunkers, your all those people of the 40s and 50s, Birlas, Dalmia. So many of them went into business after the trade. Then came this agriculturist getting into business. There were Kammas, Naidus, and Reddys, as well as Linkayat and Okaligas and Nayars, as well as in every state, the Patels, Patidars, and Maharashtra, this Marathas, all of them are getting into business. Agriculturist getting into business. The
So
third category is huh?
somewhere is the government giving them concessions or something?
Hmm?
Is the government giving them concessions or something?
No, most only it gives is land for
Okay.
the what you may loosely call the
Mhm,
industrial estate and other thing.
mm,
There is anyhow the third is the scribal.
mm.
People who traditionally belong to the clerical category,
Okay.
and they are actually Brahmins, Kayasthas, and that group. They also are getting into business and enterprise.
Mm.
Very interesting, actually. Mostly they get into the software and that type of activities, the clerical groups. So these three type of group, and Dalits are also getting into business. We have Saroj, who has got a huge, this tube
Mm.
business running into 600, 700 crores actually. Makwana of Gujarat, who has got also business in Middle East. So quite a number of Dalits. There is a Dalit Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Not many people are even knowing about it. Who are
So
consulted by the
is there also something called Muslim Dalits?
yeah, it is there, and almost all communities are in some way or other involved in business these days.
Mm.
Actually,
Yeah.
I'll tell you about this Ahmedabad kite flying. It
Mm.
used to be a 70 crore industry. During this Shankranti, they fly kite,
Mm.
another thing.
Mm.
During Modi's time as PM, he made it into a festival, kite festival, and it is now attracting international
Mm.
visitors and other thing. It's now something like 2,000 crore industry, and almost all of the kites are the business is done by Muslims actually.
Mm.
The Muslim women sit in the home and then prepare the kites of
Okay.
different varieties and different shapes and other things.
Mm.
It's a very something interesting. How I got interest in the subject, I will briefly explain.
Yeah.
I was in US traveling in the West Coast. A
Mm.
lot of these motels are there,
Mm.
which are all owned by Patels.
Yeah.
80% of the motels are owned by Patels, and they are nowadays called Patels themselves. No more motels because it's a small inn type of
Mm.
thing,
Mm. Mm.
for 25, 30 rooms or something like that. Each room is fitted with one AC, one it B&B they call it,
Mm.
the bed and breakfast.
Mm.
Morning you will get some tea coffee in a corner. They have this coffee corner where you
Yeah.
can
The
have it.
shade. Yeah.
Some toast or
Mm.
something you can make yourself, and then that's all. A lunch outside you have to have outside, so also dinner.
Mm.
So basically, for night stay, you are paying, and it's a very moderate. Almost all of them are run by Patels,
Mm.
which is something very, very interesting.
Mm.
And most of them are from Surat,
Mm. Mm.
Surtis, they are
Mm.
called
Mm.
actually.
Mm.
And I was very puzzled or fascinated. I
Mm.
began to look at it. Another
Mm.
thing, what is that? Then they told, no, this is a huge type of help within the community, funding between the community, bringing extended families and newer areas they were exploring. And now today, of course, Patels have in US have entered into petrol pump, retail stores, and also this trucking. They say in another 5 to 6 years they will own the largest number of trucks in US.
Mm.
So that is a type of. Then when I was attending a conference in Antwerp in Belgium, and I was staying in a small inn. It's the center of the global diamond industry. I didn't go there to buy diamond. I went to attend some finance conference. I saw in the ground floor of the place I was staying, it's a small hotel. Jain meal on board was there. I was puzzled. I've seen in Europe and US boards like vegetarian, some places even halal meal they write, but Jain meal was something very peculiar.
Mm.
I asked the manager. He told Jains are our major customers. That's why we
Mm.
provide. Then I inquired. Then I found out the Antwerp diamond industry, Palanpur Jains controlled 70 to
Okay.
75%
Oh,
of the
oh, oh,
industry. And
oh.
they are very microscopic
Uh.
community. They
Mm.
were 0.0001%.
Mm.
But their Washington in those days, Wall Street Journal wrote a very nice article. This is the first time Jews were defeated in business without violence. Earlier Jews used to be
Uh,
70%. They
yeah.
were all removed by these
Mm,
Palanpur Jains. They are so clever and very
mm,
good. They had a backup in Surat in
mm,
polishing these diamonds.
mm,
Anyhow, so these two gave me a interest in this community, linkages with business. Then I came to in India. I went to Coimbatore. I saw Gounder community, one of the
mm,
largest number in
mm,
terms of knitwear industry.
mm,
They were doing very well. Something of the in those days itself something of the order of 1,000 crore export.
mm.
Today I'm told it has reached some 14-15,000
Export
crore.
of what, Professor?
Knitwear
Mostly?
mostly,
Uh,
banians,
uh,
undergarments,
mm,
and some type of nowadays,
mm.
of course, shirts, then all these things.
Textiles.
So, a garment and such a huge industry. 2002 World Economic Development Report of World Bank,
Mm,
because I am professor say something people may not believe it so much, but when World Bank itself says mean they will have
mm,
more, they will raise their head and so kindly look at that report, World Bank
mm,
report. It 2 pages it devotes to how the Gondar as a community
mm,
was able to develop this industry, and they are primarily agriculturist actually, and there was a drought and the big story. Thing is, they are able to have linkages in terms of borrowing and lending. NPA is very least because of societal pressure.
mm,
The caste pressure is so much. People don't want to generate any NPA.
mm.
And failure is accepted. Others come and help you out, and new markets are given to you. Nobody tries to capture all the. I was
Okay.
coming once in a cattle class in Air France,
Mm,
and one of the businessman from Coimbatore was also he was in first class, premium first class.
mm.
So anyhow, I saw him in the lounge and asked him, "How do you manage? You don't know English, you know only Tamil, and how do you manage in France?" He told professor, "In France also people don't know English. Don't worry about it." So he had a sense
Yeah.
of humor.
Yeah. There's
Anyhow,
a question from Maya. So she's saying, so won't this rush to businesses make society lopsided, reducing the availability of people for other occupations like defense, education?
no, no, no. Defense is the role of the state. Earlier, state was actually doing business, which is not appropriate. Kshatriyas should never do business. The role of the government is Kshatriyas. They should defend internal as well as external. So I don't think, and everybody getting into business doesn't automatically mean there will not be enough people. It's like somebody asked Vivekananda, if you everybody becomes sannyasin, what will happen to the country in the future? Vivekananda told it doesn't. It will never happen. Don't worry about it. So anyhow, so this is something which the World Development Report highlighted. Then we have the example of Sivakasi. Two Nadars from there in 1930s, they went to Calcutta because there was a severe drought in that area. In those days, people used to go to Calcutta for jobs, not Bombay. Bombay has not yet developed. Calcutta was the commercial capital of the country, and they joined Wimco and learned the art of making matches. They came
Okay.
back, and there is another Nadar from Trichy, financed them, helped them. They set up a small scale unit of making matches.
Okay.
Today, 70% of the Indian matches industry is controlled from Sivakasi.
Okay.
Then they diversified into crackers, went into printing. Some of the best printing is available from Sivakasi because the cracker industry requires so much amount of paper.
Yeah.
They thought, why don't we enter into printing also? And again, so the benefits of the community was phenomenal in terms of linkages for borrowing and lending. And you should know another thing: 90% of the working capital requirement in India is not met by institutions.
Okay.
Only 10% is met by institution. 90% is met by chits and local kuri in
Yeah.
Kerala it is called, and extended family, money lenders, and caste-based relatives and linkages. This is something. So the financing is taking place because of the caste relationship. market access. Whenever there is a new market coming up,
mm,
they give the access to their own relatives and friends, and it's not that everybody, I alone will go and do business or anything like
mm.
that. Even in
No,
say
but they
Bangalore,
only give their relatives. They won't give from any other caste, right?
yeah, their cost only they will incur, but other costs are also slowly coming in. And say in Bangalore, for instance, the city is growing. So earlier, some of the people from Kannanur and other things, some Muslims
Mm,
came and set up shops here and other things.
mm,
They brought the labor also.
mm,
That is actually, I would call it as training, not child labor. Because that Satyarthi, one fellow, 72,743.7
mm.
people, I liberated, he told. He has not shown even 100. He
Mm.
went, got Nobel Prize and gone and settled in,
Yeah.
what is that called? US, happily.
Mm,
Anyhow,
mm,
so these people, after some time, they set up shop in the new areas,
mm,
actually. The people who come to help assist, actually.
mm,
Similarly, Mewar region people, I
mm,
used to give my students one assignment to go and buy a bulb in South Bangalore
mm.
from a shop which is not owned by a Rajasthani.
Okay.
They all fail. One single bulb. They will get marks for the method they can, but the ultimate thing, because they have so many linkages, raw material procurement and all that basis, they have built up the system and other thing. Absolutely, in all places, it's not. And one thing we should remember,
Mm,
we are highly entrepreneurial and risk taking in the whole world.
mm,
This is not recognized by people.
mm,
As early as 18th century,
mm,
people have gone from desert Rajasthan up
mm,
to Assam and Calcutta
mm,
to do business much before
mm,
British. They used, in those days there was no train, there was no, they used to go by the bullock cart,
mm,
or they used to go by the
mm,
chariot, depending upon and they were doing
mm,
they
mm,
good amount of business and other thing.
mm,
So, and good, and they also went to Africa, so many places. This many of the people from Rajasthan and Gujarat are settled in Africa for hundreds of years actually,
mm.
and they are one of the oldest settlement. And so, the level of risk taking is phenomenally high actually, and the caste helps in terms of facilitating risk taking. In terms of failure, we will step in and help you. We won't throw you out or anything. We will show you the way. And the local, regulations, laws, it's very tough. It's very costly to hire a chartered accountant or a lawyer in UK or US today in order to start your business. Instead, you rely on your extended caste network. They tell you what all laws to be followed, what all
Yeah.
regulations to be, and which all fellows can be bribed. All that they tell you very nicely. Zone restriction and
Mm,
various things they tell you. It's a very, very interesting and important linkage. There are something like 1100 caste clusters in India.
mm,
Economic clusters they are called,
mm.
but actually they are all caste clusters.
Okay.
Government of India never recognized caste as a issue at all
Mm,
till 1980.
mm.
All the planning commission reports were talking about economic cluster as if the economic clusters were swayambhu. They came by themselves. They didn't come. They came by the
Uh,
caste groups actually. 1980, there was a report on the leather industry where they highlighted the role of Muslims
uh,
in both Ambur and Agra.
mm,
Muslims play a very good role in leather industry because
mm.
leather industry also involves this cows and various other. Many of the Hindus are not very
Yeah,
enthusiastic.
keen to do that.
Maybe in of course other aspects of leather industry they may be participating in terms of packaging, in terms of, but not core. Anyhow, 1980 is the first time Muslims were mentioned as an important component of leather industry. After that, some more studies came, and all this what I am telling came out about Patels, about James, about Nadars, Goundars, so many other type of things. So, what I want to stress is,
Mm,
out of this 1100,
mm,
roughly 1100, 1,000 are caste-based clusters.
mm,
Economic cluster in India is caste-based.
mm,
It was started by a caste, but other caste also joined. For instance, in Savagasi, you have so many Nadar and other groups also have come and set up shops and other things. It's not they are against her. So one important point to note is caste in business unites, caste in politics divides.
yeah.
This is the core
Okay.
part of the
Okay.
book.
Yeah, very important.
Business unites because when you are doing business, you are not worried about who is your customer,
Mm,
whether he is a Hindu or a Muslim or a
mm,
Nair or every customer is a good customer for you.
mm,
That's all.
mm,
So, caste in business unites, caste
mm,
in politics divides. This is very, very. Second is aggregation has taken place due to politics
mm,
because political parties would call about Kamma as a group. It has become now. Tevars actually there were three groups under Tevars, Maravar, Kalar, and Agamadayar, but everybody is now called Tevar. Some
mm,
new groups. Aggregation is taking place due to politics
mm,
now currently. And third is most of these caste-based organizations are critical for our economic growth and development
mm,
because these 1,000 clusters they constitute approximately 50% of our GDP.
mm,
If you take the service sector means not just IT industry.
mm,
You have trade, wholesale trade, retail trade, transport, hotels and restaurant. So many of them are service sector. Your plumber, fitter, carpenter, painter, all of them are service sector. If you take that, and you will find huge amount predominantly are caste-based groups. For instance, very difficult to find a plumber in Bangalore today
mm,
who is Kannadiga. Most of the plumbers are from Orissa,
yeah.
actually. So this is something very interesting. Incidentally, 60% of the plumbers in the country come from one district of Orissa called Kendrapara.
Okay.
There, all of them come. Long
Mm,
time before, I suggested to the Orissa government,
mm,
you have a you create Kendrapara to be a plumbing capital of the country.
mm,
You make that.
mm,
You start a university. Plumbing is not just fixing a pipe anymore. It's so much what one can call become accessory and
mm, mm,
anyhow. What I want to stress is in service sector, quite a large number of caste clusters are existing
mm,
even today,
mm,
and uh, and they are the so I would definitely say without any hesitation that caste is one of the important engines of our economic growth.
mm,
But for caste, we might not have achieved this 7%, 6.5%, and other thing.
mm,
This is something which we should very, very clearly remember.
mm,
So, caste is not something to be abused. And we have an uncanny knack in India of criticizing and abusing things which are extremely important for us. We don't even realize it. And then people start about abolishing caste. Abolishing caste has been attempted from Lord Buddha to Ambedkar. Everybody has not, they wanted to. And, some marginal changes have always come about. It will be. After all, a society is an evolving society. It's not something like that. So this is something which we should very much be aware of. And if you ask me, it's not a four-letter word; it's a five-letter word, and extremely important for us to realize the critical role played by them. And before conclusion, I would like to point out, and since Swami Vivekananda, I am sure most of you would have heard about Vivekananda. He went abroad and
mm, mm,
came back, and that time he did a lecture from Jaffna to Almora. He went all around the because Sri Lanka was part of India, that in the sense a larger country, and very interesting. Almost all the lectures were arranged by Hindu Sangam, Hindu Association, Hindu Samajam, like that, all over the country. There were so many of them which were prevalent. Now you find very difficult to have some sort of an Hindu association. Mean people will be reluctant to come and talk even. They will
mm,
say no, 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 make it secular and all this. Anyhow, He says in his address in Jaffna in 1897, the older I grow, the better I seem to think of these caste and such other time honored institutions of India. There was a time when I used to think many of them were useless and worthless, and I wanted them to be abolished. But the older I grow, he says he was 38 years only he lived. He says older I grow. Today, 55 is called youth icon in India, and so that is a change. The older I grow, the more I seem to feel a diffidence in cursing any one of them. For each one of them is an embodiment of experience of centuries. Let us not try to. He says lectures from Colombo to Almora. It is there in the. So let's not try to. If you ask me in single word, let us celebrate caste, not caste differences, not caste distinction, not caste upper, so-called upper and low, nothing. All caste. And there used to be, you will be surprised to know the movement of caste from one place to another. Huge number of people have moved from one location to another, and so the composition has also changed. What was originally considered belonging to the warrior caste has become the priestly caste. Another, for instance, huge movement took place of this. One simple example could be the the Ayers from Tamil Nadu to
Mm.
Palakkad.
Okay.
They are called Patars actually. They
Mm.
have settled there, and they are as much Keralite as anybody else or anything, right? And of course,
But
they
just a
continue to have
question
their own
here.
tradition.
Yeah. Yeah. Professor,
Yeah,
just a doubt. See, what if in politics there was a rule where you would say that there should be no mention of caste at all?
where?
If, for
Sorry.
example, in elections, okay, and people are not supposed to put any caste anywhere,
Um,
what would
where
have
where
happened?
is the rule? Suppose the rule comes, you mean? It won't come. It's not possible actually. Even communist, for instance, he is known as Jyoti Basu, right? So the leaders are known by the Mukherjee's, Chatterjee, Banerjee.
Mm.
Everybody knows are Brahmin. Who has removed it? You tell me.
Mm.
Which leader?
Yeah.
In Tamil Nadu here and there, but even in Tamil Nadu, the selection of ministers and other thing is based on caste.
Yeah.
So many veneers should be there, so many Tevar should be there, and like that. So this is not one thing you can say big things on the table, but not in practice.
Mm.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
So let us celebrate it. Let us recognize that caste in business unites,
Mm.
caste in politics divides. So that is very, very critical.
Mm.
And it is very important buffer it creates. The family, extended family, caste, all of them are buffers
Mm.
vis-a-vis the role of individual and government.
Yeah.
Incidentally, in US, the church played the same role as caste today.
Mm.
People belonging to the same church, people who go to the same school, they joined together and they started business and they did. So it is not what one can call significantly different or anything. As
But
you were
Professor,
mentioning very nicely, even in India, they say Christians have got as many castes as possible as
yeah,
Hindus.
yeah.
There is
But
no. You
mm,
see the matrimonial advertisement,
mm.
you will find a Nadar Christian wanting a bride, Pillai Christian, one Nair Christian wanting the buyer. And all these things are there in public place. You don't have to. Same thing with
Professor,
Muslim.
yeah. Recently, there was a very, a spate of anger against Brahmins. What is the reason why Brahmins were being, ostracized?
No, no, this is happening in where, for instance, in Tamil Nadu, this has been going on for the last 100 years. 1920 it started by the British in order to create divisions, and this has been now because of the channels, television and
Mm, mm.
social media channel, it is coming into the front in the sense it is exposed much more
Mm.
compared to olden times. Those days there was only a print media in 1960s and 70s. The virulent thing is always there. So that's
And
nothing.
also, why do the opposition always use the president Draupadi Murmu, as this thing to whip the present government.
Come again?
Why does the opposition always use our president, Draupadi Murmu, as sort of a whip to hit at our present government under Modi?
Yeah, yeah. These are, this is, the age-old tactics to win some votes. That's all. Nothing more or nothing less. And all
Yeah.
those leaders who day in and day out criticize Brahmin, they have Brahmin lawyers, Brahmin chartered accountants. All of their affairs are taken care. So it is just, outside for votes. That's
So
all.
Ned is asking you, how did untouchability creep into caste system?
No, that is a very big area. Anyhow, basically, that is also due to the influence of the Mughals actually. You
Mm,
see, when Mughals came, first time, the women were not allowed outside the
mm,
home. So they have to do the restroom activity also inside the home.
mm.
So they created bungis to carry those
Ah, okay.
thing outside. And those bungis became
Yeah, untouchables.
later the untouchable caste. Another. So anyhow, that's a separate topic by
Mm,
itself, right?
mm,
Thank you.
mm. So,
Thanks a lot for your audience for the questions
yeah.
also.
So thank you, friends, because Professor wanted to leave at, he has some other work as well.
No, if
So
there
thank
are
you.
any other questions, I can answer and then go. No
Yeah. So I
problem.
think there is one question from Maya, who says
Ah,
Langarias, who control the rupee cash trade flow in Mumbai, runs only on trust. But will they be affected by digital transactions?
yeah, digital. They can, they will do digital by trust again instead of cash. They
Huh.
will be having their own
Mm,
digital transaction.
mm,
I don't think it will be significantly affected or anything.
yeah. DMK is anti-women and anti-Brahmin party. They are just doing the divide and rule policy, says
Yeah, yeah.
Chitra.
This is the age-old tactics of the parties. So,
Uh,
in some way or other, they would like to gain.
mm,
This is a small group. It's always easier to attack a small group of rather than going for
yeah,
right.
yeah. Meera is saying
50% of
60%
construction. Yeah, yeah.
construction, yeah,
All over
from West
India,
Bengal,
your
gone away to
construction
Mumbai,
laborers are
Delhi.
all from other places only.
Yeah,
Bihar, Orissa, Bengal. Some of them could be Bangladesh also.
yeah,
Right? All the places. You find in restaurant, you find in retail stores,
yeah,
you find in plumbing, dog walkers.
yeah,
Many places I find dog walkers are from outside.
yeah.
Security agency. Most of the security agencies you see in Bangalore, Chennai, and other
Bangladeshi,
from Assam or
Bangladesh.
Bihar, right?
Meera is saying traditional caste systems still exist like Marwadi Gujarati choose family business. If the young generation archive engineering MBA graduates, still they choose extended family
Yeah, yeah.
business. Yeah.
The enthusiasm in family business is understandable actually
Mm.
because you can join and then you
Yeah.
can increase it actually. Yeah,
Yeah. So, friends, before I close, let me tell you that this book is available on Amazon, and I'll be getting my copy, and I'll get it signed by Professor Vaidya.
I would like
Because
all the audience of
yeah,
today
yeah,
to buy a copy.
yeah,
I'm not telling you to read it. Reading is your option.
yeah.
At least buy it. For
Yes,
me, that is enough.
definitely. And also remember that Professor Vaidya has a very humorous sense of this thing, and this is there in the writing as well. You will find it very interesting. Thank you, Professor Vaidya. Good night
Thanks a
and
lot.
Jai Hind.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
night.
you very much, Meenadi, for your
Thank you.
Candid Meena channel. Thanks a
Yeah.
lot. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.